that deck is out. He can no longer play it. He has to pick one of his other 2 decks that are on backup.
So I would imagine that he loads up land still here. And I would be wrong. It looks like Jody is playing Dredge.
Wow.
And what an opening hand. Sorry, spoiler alert, Jody has the notes. So we are looking at Braun-Duin. Oh, no, we are not. Okay. So, yep. All right, so we are looking at Jody's deck list. The main deck looks pretty standard. I don't see... Yeah, I don't see it. There's no Dread Returns in the main deck. That seems to be the trend.
Wow, that's really interesting. Can we confirm that this is the case? That there is no is he just playing a bridge from below style? Trying to grind you out.
Popularized by Orm67 on Magic Online. He's been the person leading the Dredge Revolution over the last few months. Solid player. He doesn't play Dread Return in the main deck, so we will see 2 in the sideboard though.
Yeah, well, with no big targets, it looks like Jody's just going to try and grind out. And I got to say, it might not be too hard for him to be able to grind out a Death Shadow deck with a lot of zombies.
So we do know that Brian has 3 Surgical Extraction in his sideboard, so I would love to see a post-board game where Silent Gravestone comes into play. But for now, we're going to watch game 1
that
between
will be certainly exciting.
And Jody Keith. And like I said, Jody's hand is phenomenal, and it looks like Braun-Duin doesn't have Force of Will. And Jody's on the play, so it might be a messy one. I would personally lead off on Cephalid Coliseum, Lion's Eye Diamond, Breakthrough, add 3 red. This is my style of Magic.
Well, maybe not quite your style. Maybe it's a little...
I've played Dredge before. It is a legacy deck that I've entered in a sanctioned tournament.
I thought you didn't have any range. I thought you were kind of limited into kind of.
You'll find out next week.
Right of Flame. Oh, I cannot wait to see your Belcher deck, your Storm deck, and your other Storm deck. I'm super excited. How many Chalice of the Voids are you registering next week, Bryant?
I can't tell you that. The number might be 8.
I would love if you brought like 12 Chalice of the Voids, and then I would also... I will change. Tell you what, if you decide to send 12 Chalice of the Voids, I will also register 12 Chalice of the Voids. I got you.
That doesn't sound like fun.
Fun for who?
The viewers.
Oh, no.
See, Lion's Eye Diamond, that's a fun card.
Is it? Oh, man. This is a pretty interesting hand. This is a pretty good hand from Jody, and I'm not really excited about the hand that Brian has. Double Gurmag Angler is not very exciting, and it really looks like he's leaning off on this ponder pretty hard to be able to do anything.
So one thing that I find kind of interesting is traditionally, like years ago, their Dredge deck would play like 1 main deck Iona or 1 main deck Gristlebrand. These newer lists don't play those, so Reanimate in Brian's hand has no real target. Like you could reanimate a Golgari Grave Troll and have it die, like a Narc Amoeba. Like there's just nothing good that you're going to reanimate.
No, here, but as we kind of talked about before, Jody's really playing this kind of grind you out Dredge deck here, and I believe it was popularized by Orm67, as you said. Just want to make sure. And I haven't really played against this deck yet, but I got to say, game 1 has to be supremely favored for Jody here.
So something that I've liked about Jody so far in Legacy Premier League is everyone just expected him to play lands. And he's really shown his range as a player throughout Legacy Premier League. So kudos to him registering very different decks every single round of the way.
Yeah, I think Jody has impressed the most with his range in the Legacy Premier League. I think a lot of people are kind of...
That's what I just said, Randolph.
I'm agreeing with you. that I am impressed. I apologize for agreeing with you, Brian. I won't do that anymore.
Let's start disagreeing more.
I will. But the other thing is, Jody has really registered a lot of off-the-wall decks. he hasn't really registered anything, that has been known, anything that has been sold or solid. So it is a little interesting to see some of what Jody has been doing. Yeah, and as opposed to like this legacy metagame that we're all very familiarized with, that you're kind of expecting what to play against, about, Stoneblade decks and Miracle decks and Grixis Control and Delver. And it's certainly a little wild to see, Jody just bring land still, and Dredge and Mono Black Pox. Certainly playing off.
He didn't have an easy way here. He faced some pretty tough opponents.
Are you saying all of Jody's opponents were tough? I just want to be clear here.
Except for a couple.
except for a couple? Wow. That is so hurtful. But yeah, this is turn one. Make 5 zombies, shred some cards from BBD's hand, and it looks like this reanimate is going to go away.
I wouldn't even take the reanimate. Like, what's he going to do?
Maybe he
Street Wraith?
Yeah, maybe he reanimates Street Wraith and blocks forever.
All right.
Maybe he reanimates Icarid? I don't know.
I would love to see that happen.
I would too. It looks like another Cabal Therapy is going to go ahead and take out this Death Shadow, and Brian's hand is pretty stranded right now, to say the least. But there is possible. Actually, no. Reanimate's pretty good, right? Because if BBD untaps and reanimates Golgari Grave Troll, he does nab every single one of
the bridges.
Jody's bridges. So that
I didn't consider that.
Yeah, so that might be something that is playable. So it looks like Jody's just going to go ahead and rip away everything. He believes it's these 3 zombies is going to be enough. Plus, with Icarid coming into play and another 6 Dredge, he's going to be in a pretty good spot here. And it looks like a Force Wall off the top is going to prompt a concession from Brian. And I've never played Dredge before. How do you sideboard here?
So I think there's like a couple different ways of sideboarding. And I know that Orm, for example, and I've read some of his Reddit posts, doesn't like to over sideboard. He believes in minimal sideboarding. Like, find out what your opponent's doing to combat you, and then you can board into a specific plan. So if I was in Jody's shoes, I would not be bringing in Serenity, Nature's Claim, and Silent Gravestone. So I would probably bring in like 2 to 3, maybe even 4. I would not bring in all 6. And then if there's a game 3, I would expect Lotus Petal to come in. I think on the play, you just want to be explosive as possible and just punish your opponent for being on the draw.
Right. There's also a lot of plays for Jody where a turn 1 Silent Gravestone into like a Faithless Looting or a Breakthrough is going to be way too much for Brian to handle and just gets overloaded.
So this isn't a matchup where I would expect the Dread Return package to come in. I just don't think it gains you a whole lot. Like, you have one target in Ashen Rider, and then you have Golgari Grave Trolls. Like, none of those cards in this matchup seem like they're that terrific. Like, I understand that Death Shadow doesn't have a whole lot of blockers, but just like smashing in over and over with the Grave Troll, I don't think is a winning strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the zombie package, the Bridge from Below package, is going to be really what he's looking for.
Someone in the chat asked, what match is this? This is match 2 of 5 between Braun-Duin and Jody Keith.
Right, and this is going to be a pretty long event, especially over the next couple of weeks. I mean, this week we're going to have we've already had a 5-match set between Jarvis Yu and Michael Bonde. Jarvis Yu wins 3-2.
It was a phenomenal match. If you missed it, go into YouTube under Julian's account. Watch the playbacks. You'll be glad that you did. Even hit subscribe. Julian's a nice guy. Help him out.
Is he?
Yeah, he's okay. Plays elves. But,
elves is like a worse goblins, right?
I mean, I didn't see elves win a whole lot on Legacy Premier League.
I have also not seen elves win a lot, but I have seen goblins win at least once.
The Grixis Goblins deck won a couple times.
Did it?
It did.
Why do you like? Do you like Grixis Goblins over Mono Red Goblins? Because Mono Red Goblins looks kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just not as explosive. Some people even call Grixis Goblins Black Belcher.
Would you say that Empty the Warrens is a good card or a bad card?
I'd probably say it's a crutch.
Yeah, probably a crutch. Probably not a reasonable card to play.
All right, so enough joking. Let's look at the opening hands. It seems like one card is cropped off of each, but we can see that Braun-Duin has a surgical extraction, which is pretty good in this matchup.
Right, and a Thoughtseize off the top. And this is actually really interesting, right? When you look at a deck like Dredge, you don't normally think a card like Thoughtseize might be pretty good, right? They're playing out of their graveyard, their hand is mostly irrelevant. But especially on turn one, being able to rip something like a Faithless Looting, a Breakthrough, or even here...
I love taking the Putrid Imp here.
Yeah.
I want to make Jody discard his entire hand and go all in.
Yeah, you think you like that over taking the Lion's Eye Diamond?
I do.
Now, why would you want to take a Putrid Imp over a Lion's Eye Diamond?
Because I want Jody to force himself into a play path, and it looks like Brian has other plans, but it makes it so that he can't, later on in the game have enough energy or enough resources to come back in the game after you've stalled them out. And that's how Dredge wins long games, is just by playing this slow game where they slowly play one Dredger and they make sure they don't overcommit. And that's how a lot of the post-board games go.
Kind of an interesting play pattern
is... I did not see that.
Brian did have Daze in his hand, so he knew that he couldn't counter Lion's Eye Diamond and could counter Putrid Imp. So it looks like that is what is going to happen here. And even though Brian's hand isn't very good at the moment, he is pretty far ahead. Jody is stuck with a lot of Dredgers in his hand, no real way to discard. Brian still has a Surgical, and now he has a threat in Delver of Secrets here. He is going to be at 12, though, so a Death Shadow off the top is going to be pretty good. And it looks like there is a Lion's Eye Diamond there. Wow.
You should have had the soul read of the Surgical in the draw step.
I should have. So here's the interesting part. When are you looking to Surgical, Brian, for maybe our players who aren't very familiar with this Dredge kind of matchup? What cards are you looking to Surgical? When do you want a Surgical?
I would be looking for cards like Cabal Therapy, Icarid, Bridge from Below. I generally don't like hitting Dredgers. I don't think that it's a high enough impact play, especially when you know that Jody has one of each of his Dredgers in his hand. So I think you might be able to get away from it if you know that they don't have something like a Street Wraith in their hand to dredge the creature back. But, it looks like we're going to see a second copy of Surgical Extraction on top of Brian's deck.
Wow.
When back by a clock like Insectile Aberration, that's very scary.
Right, and we're going to see here with double Surgical, this means that Brian has the opportunity to nab Bridge from Belows and Icarids and really cut off Jody's way to kind of push in and be able to grind out Brian here. And at such a low life total, 3 zombies might be more than good enough.
Ooh. So I think a way that Jody could have won this game through double Surgical is if he had drawn Breakthrough. And that makes an awkward situation for Brian where he chooses then right there to either hit Dredgers or try to hit the key cards like Narcomoebas, Icarids, Bridges. And it puts him in a tough place between choosing what's actually correct. The play that Jody took was fine. I just think it's going to be really tough to beat 2 copies of Surgical now. And we'll see that Brian picked up a Gurmag Angler, so he can actually increase his clock here from 3 turns down to 2.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong side of the screen.
No, it's 14, but 8 over 2 is going to be lethal over the next couple of turns. So there are 2 more turns left for Jody to kind of draw out of this, but having double Surgical in hand is going to be pretty tough for him to fight through.
So question for you. You'll notice that Brian tapped out here and left a Preordain and a Street Wraith. Do you like that, or would you rather represent something in your hand?
I think I'm much happier just kind of, leaving open a Watery Grave, for example. There are cards like Flusterstorm and Stubborn Denial in the deck. But I got to be honest with you, it might not really matter too much because of Jody's draws, that Jody's going to have to play into everything anyway and just hope that Brian doesn't have it. And this is a really interesting part here. Brian's casting Surgical on the Narcomoeba to rip them out, and he gets to see Jody's deck. If you're Jody here, you're pretty likely to lose the game. Are you going to?
I would have conceded. I don't want to give Brian any additional information.
Yeah,
with a player of his caliber, that information is crucial.
Because now Brian gets to know that he just kind of has access to Silent Gravestone out of Jody's deck, so he knows to play around it. Now he knows what he might need post-sideboarding. I doubt anything's going to change, but it is kind of nice to know. But the Surgical Extraction, just going to take out this Icarid and kind of end Jody's hopes of being able to get back in this game.
Looks like we'll be seeing a Game 3 momentarily. And Bobson Dugnut wins that game.
Are you familiar with the background of Brian's screen name?
I heard Jarvis talking about it, how it's a Japanese baseball game based on American names, something along those lines.
They wanted to put a bunch of names in the credits that sounded American, so there were a lot of names that, obviously were like very cute, didn't really make any sense at all, and Bobson Dugnut was one of them.
When I played video games when I was a kid, Ken Griffey Jr., like All-Stars or something along those lines was the baseball game I had. It had real names, so I'm not too familiar with whatever game that is. Maybe it was like Ken Griffey Jr. Home Run. I don't remember. It was something like that. I'm a terrible baseball fan.
Yeah, I can tell you do like the New York Mets.
Yeah,
this is called Fighting Baseball. Let's take a look here while our players are going through sideboarding, and let's talk about some of these names, because some of these names are great. What about Sleeve McDykel? What do you think about that name?
Sounds like an 80s name.
All right, what about Willie Dust Ice?
Sounds American.
All right, what about Dean Westry?
No, that sounds very European.
What about Sean Furcott? And before we get into this, you need to understand Sean is spelled S-H-O-W-N.
Okay.
These are some very, very real names.
I think we're supposed to be talking about the deck list. Mike's highlighting some cards. I don't think he likes our conversation very much.
Oh, well, that's too bad if Mike doesn't like it, because this is our show now. But
so what do you feel about something like this matchup?
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
I beat you to it. Get over it, Rudy. I'll beat you next week.
It looks like Mike is now hovering over end call with this person, but if we're not here to do commentary, who will? Do you really want Honorog back in here, Mike?
I mean, he's got great hair. You haven't had a haircut in months.
I don't know. Having Honorog in here is kind of questionable, but I think I definitely like Rajabam in here. Dark Blast is kind of interesting. Being able to kill Narcomoebas and Icarids in the upkeep before anything relevant could happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that could happen. I think on the draw, if you're in a position where that's already happening, you're probably pretty far ahead.
I'm pretty excited to see this quality of coverage cannot be replaced. Thank you, Steam Flogger Boss.
Not everyone has good taste. All right, so looking at Jody's hand, because he's on the play game 3, this hand really needs a dredger. So this is a tough decision, because like if you keep and then hit a dredger, your hand is phenomenal. If you miss, you're almost guaranteed to lose. And Brian does have interaction in his deck that you're already aware of, like Forcible and Surgical Extraction, that just happen to be in his hand.
Yeah, this is the hand where, like, if Jody leads off on, and gets Force of Willed into Surgical, probably just actually
and then Wasteland. Like, that's a triple blowout. Like,
yeah.
Once again, Brian opens up with just like the best possible hand you can have in the matchup.
Did you say Brian is Brian? Would you say that Brian is whitelisted here?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
I said, would you agree that Braun-Duin is a very lucky person to be able to?
I think it's mostly skill.
Mostly skill.
When you wax your head, you get higher percentage points. That's what I've heard.
Oh, okay. So that's what you were telling me earlier when you wanted me to get a haircut. Is in order to steal, to have some of the same power that Braun-Duin possesses, I need to shave my entire head.
Yes, mass drop bald.
Okay, thank you. I will certainly keep that in mind moving forward.
Look for them on the Pro Tour.
But here, this is Jody's 5, and I think you kind of have to keep this here, and it looks like he did. Lion's Eye Diamond, is this something you want to force will, or is this something you want to wait on?
I snap off Force will very quickly for Lion's Eye Diamond in this mission. For a 5-card hand, that was one of Jody's best 5s.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, this is something you're pretty happy. Icarid, Bridge from Below, Faithless Looting, Gruar, Grave Troll. This is just so good here. It looks like Brian is reaching for this Force of Will. He is going to pitch a Brainstorm.
Masters Force of Will, though. Brian,
yes,
you want Worlds. Come on, man.
You just can't afford it. All right, back off. So it looks like with a Stubborn Denial.
Ooh, Land was a pretty good draw there.
Yeah, Brian is just going to go ahead and just play Underground Sea and pass here. I think we're going to see Jody tank a little bit and then try to cast this Faithless Looting. I think he has to try and get something going.
Brian's ready with Stubborn Denial and a Wasteland.
Yeah, well, that is true. What are you going to do in Jody's spot? You can't really sit around and do nothing.
You're going to, not playing your land here doesn't advance your game at all. And Brian's hand isn't getting any worse. His draws are only going to be better than yours. So I think how you win this matchup is just by drawing very well while your opponent doesn't, and it starts by getting rid of what they already have.
Absolutely. So I think, I think Jody's kind of cornered here. He's up the creek without a paddle, and he's got to try and make some moves, but it looks like this Current is going to just sweep him away, and this Stubborn Denial is going to go ahead and counter this Faithless Looting.
I imagine that when BBD plays Moto, he has the same expression that he does in his icon in the upper left-hand corner. Just very intense, staring into the screen, envisioning his opponent's death.
I think BBD at home is probably giggling to himself. That's what I think.
Stroking his goatee.
That's what I think. I think Jody is probably just sitting at home. Jody, hands on his temples, just thinking about what he's going to do, and Brian's just sitting there surgical extraction, Stubborn Denial.
Whenever I face BBD in real life, he's very stoic when he plays, very little expression. I think it's probably the reason, one of the many reasons that he's been so successful. It's very difficult to get a good read on him.
Well, absolutely. I can totally agree with that. I actually have a funny story. One time I play tested with Brian, and he brought 12 posts when I was playing Stoneblade because he thought it was funny. And he's just sitting there giggling the entire time as he plays Cloud Post. That's all I can think of whenever I picture Brian playing. Obviously now he's, as you said, very stoic, very serious when he plays. But that is the only thing that I can really think about is just him doing that just over and over.
One of my personal favorite memories, and I've told this story a few times, but Brian and I got paired round one of a Star City, and game one I dress him or probe him, and I see Meddling Mage and Gataxian Probe in his opening hand game one, and I was just like, what the hell? So game three, I go all in on a first turn Ad Nauseam, and Ad Nauseam down to 2 life, and I was lucky enough to win the match, but then he revealed that he had Gut Shot in his hand.
I can see Brian just I'm waiting, please go to 1.
Seeing that he's playing Death Shadow, I'm a little sad that he's not playing Gut Shot.
Yeah, probably not very good. I think if Brian was playing against Bondi, I think we would see Gut Shot in his Death Shadow sideboard. Julian, same deal.
There was a period in Magic where Gut Shot was very common in the sideboards back during Maverick's heyday.
Ooh, interesting. I don't really recall that, but Gutshot's an interesting card here, and it looks like Jody is just trying to naturally discard this Golgari Grave Troll so he can get something going here, but Double Days in Brian's hand.
It's going to be a little too late.
Just too little, too late here, and dropping Jody down to 5. I think Brian is going to go ahead and take this match and start this 2-0.
I mean, I would like to see Jody win some rounds. I don't want to stare at Watery Graves the entire night. And that's match 2. So it looks like BBD is up 2-0 currently.